before we start, if you don't mind, if we all close our eyes and pray together. Father, we thank you for your goodness. We thank you for your grace. Lord, we've come together. We've come to fellowship. We've come to learn. Bless our learning. Let this be fruitful. Let the good soil of our minds, of our intellects, oh God, let them come to the fore, that the seeds that will be sown today shall grow. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you all. So before we start, can I employ us to come forward, if we don't mind? Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And just a couple of information for our benefits. There will be no fire. Amen. But essentially, if there is any, we just go through the fire doors and go out through the entrance. And for the female toilets, they're just outside the room. And for the male toilets, we would direct you to go upstairs. You can't miss it. It's just the door. It's just the door opposite the stairs, okay? Okay, so without any further ado, I'll open the floor with a question. So exactly why are we here today? If I throw that out to all of us seated, obviously apart from the likes of Brother Taye and Mr. Sheon, is there any particular reason we're here or anything we would like to learn or tap into? Can I pick on you, Veronica? Is it Veronica? Victoria was close. Forgive me. So why are you here today? And is there something you really want to learn from today?
Well, I was asked to come, so.
You were asked to come.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And then but it says the topic says ThinkTank.
Okay.
And sorry, it's on. And I'm just curious to see what. I'm expecting that I get knowledge.
Okay.
And I'm expecting that obviously people on the panel probably have some experience that they can share and impart into us. So,
great.
So I'm open-minded, to be honest.
I'm glad. That's good. That's good. Because I was speaking to one of the speakers today, and being open-minded is something that is very key. And I hope you don't mind if I refer to you, and if you tell us your name and why you're here, and essentially what you want to get out of today.
Okay. I'm Melissa. I heard about this event through Obi, and I'm just really interested about kingdom finances, and particularly people who are in the kingdom, talking about entrepreneurship and talking about how we can build up a commonwealth, creating our own wealth. So often we expect wealth to be generated via loans, via secular activities, but we have to be realistic that if we're focusing on the kingdom, it's only going to be kingdom people who are going to be able to finance kingdom ideas. So I'm just really interested to go and see other people who are operating in this arena.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Marilyn, do you mind giving us an insight into something you'd expect from today?
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. To be honest, I'm someone who's really into starting my own thing, and I wanted to find out kind of legally the things that I might be missing, how I too can save money, because I know that the people that are speaking this evening have already gone before me, and I'm hoping that I'm not going to make the mistakes that they maybe have. So yeah, that's it for me. Thanks.
Excellent. So I'll give you a quick rundown for today. In truth, all we need to do is tap into the knowledge here. And I know we have a few business brains. Bola is one of them in the back there. Do not let his demeanor fool you. He's enterprising. He's a very enterprising young man. And we have Pastor Mrs. Awolesi as well. Very enterprising. So the whole idea is we tap into knowledge. Kunle as well, and we've got people that trade Bitcoin in the house as well. I don't know much about businesses, but I certainly know a little bit about finances. But the whole idea is together we tap into the wisdom. And let's not forget we've got the experience of our great men of valor in the presence of our dads in front here. So the whole idea is to tap into the experience and leverage all that is in the room. So we're going to start with a simple process, which is for each of the speakers, they will come out and speak a bit about themselves, what they do, and then link that on to what they want to show us. And for every time they speak, they will then sit down. The next comes up. So once they all finish their intros, which should be for about 15 minutes or thereabout, we then start the Q&A. So do take notes. You've been given pads and pens. So please take notes. And this is a chance to squeeze a lot more out from what they would say. So they obviously won't say a lot, but there might be pressing questions you've got about business strategies or managing multiple businesses at the same time. And to kick this off, we've got the pleasure of having with us Mr. Oluwaseun Isaiah, talented professional with excellent strategic management skills, and is going to present an in-depth knowledge of the business, and I'm correct to say from a business consultancy perspective and setting up. So this is the plan. So essentially, he's going to set the scene, and then after he does this, Brother Taye will come and give a detailed perspective from actually setting up your business and your story and sharing that with us before we have Brother Wale give us the breakdown about the accounting and the tax issues that we might face. So without further ado, can I invite you, Mr. Oluwaseun Isaiah? Can we celebrate him, please? I believe we've got a slide ready.
Praise God. Praise God. As Brother Deji mentioned, my name is Seun Adewuye. I'm a qualified accountant. I'm a chartered accountant. And I've been in the profession for over 20 years. And I have MBA from Cardiff. And I've been involved in over 60 businesses, starting or helping them to grow. And my experience cut across charity and profit-making organization. And over the 20 years, I've looked at problems that 90% of business faces, because I look at business as if you are building a house. Before you build your house, you consult the architects. The measurement, the regulatory part of the building, they will put that in place for you. But most of us start business without not actually going through that. We don't do our due diligence. And before I go in deep, I want to ask, how many of us here owns our own business? Like 50% here. When you were starting your business, did you take time to write a business plan? How many of us here did put a business plan together? One out of like 20 here. And business plan, it's one area that is very, very important in setting up a business. When you are setting up a business, you need to know where you are now, where you're going to, and how you are going to get there. Those three questions, you have to put them in writing. I'm not going to go into the bookkeeping part of things. I just wanted to open our mind on how business works, what we need to do about setting up a business. The area I looked at, and when I was having discussion with the pastor, was compliance. an audit, because when you start up a business, you need to know the industry you are operating. What are the issues involved in that industry? I had a chat with a client a few months ago, and they wanted to go into money transfer, and they want to make it big. But I asked the question, have you considered all the FCA? The question the client asked me is that, what is FCA? And I was wondering, you want to start a money transfer business and you don't know what is FCA, then how are you going to do it? You can put 100,000 into the business, in the infrastructure and so on. But if you are not compliant, the government can turn up tomorrow and shut it down. Then we Africans will believe, somebody is in the village after us. But there is nobody in the village. It's us that we are not doing our job properly. I look at one area that I look as in every aspect of things is compliance audit. The word audit, don't let it scare you. You don't necessarily mean you an auditor or an accountant, but you need to constantly audit every aspect. The definition of compliance audit, I put it there. It's a compliance audit is a comprehensive review of an organization adhering to regulatory guidance, independent accounting, security, IT consultants evaluate the strength and the trueness of compliance procedure or preparation. What does that mean? It means that you are starting up a business. You need to look at, one, what industry am I going into? There's someone here, I just want to use that as a reference. For example, you're dealing with kids. The service you want to provide is going to be, involved, with kids. Maybe you are a teacher or so. The first thing a client will ask you is, do you have your CRB? Then, if you don't have that, when a client asks you that, what it means? If I'm your client, it's like, you are rubbish. I don't even want you to get near my kid. Because if you can't audit yourself to know what you need, what are you going to impact to my kid? And that's the reason every business that we are going into, we need to audit ourselves, audit the industry. What are the requirements? Did I need a security? Did I need an IT? If I'm setting up an IT system, is my IT system going to get, record people's data? What are the certification that I need to be able to keep people's data? Because you cannot just keep people's name, date of birth, without you actually informing the government that you are doing that. And there's procedure in which you need to do that. And that is very, very important, because you might have the money, you might have the capital or you've been able to raise the finance. If you don't put the regulatory systems in place, that is the problem. And when you start up a business, I will go into that again. I've explained, I don't want to bore you about compliance and audit. Just want to speak overview of the issue. Even if you already set up your business, you need to constantly ask yourself this question. If you're a startup, is your startup compliant, or your company at the moment, is it compliant? You need to always ask yourself that question. For example, those questions you need to ask yourself is, have you chosen the right entity? Is it a limited company or LLP, limited liability company, or partnership? Have you chosen the right entity for yourself? Have you think about the statutory compliance? Because I know most of us, I speak to most of my colleagues in accounting, we always have this issue with people want to have an accountant, they want you to provide, but they don't want to pay for the service. And it's one area in which you need to take very, very important, because if you don't take them, you don't take them, serious. Even if you make 100,000, you might end up, when government hit on you, you may end up paying 150. Then for you to afford that, or for you to be able to have guidance, you need to think about which independent examiner am I going to hire, which is the accountant I'm going to hire, how am I going to do my filing, and we'll leave that to some of the speaker, but the statutory compliance means statutory requirements. Have you looked into that? Then audit compliance means how can I afford errors? How can I keep my record properly in case HMRC asks for VAT returns of 3 years ago, 4 years ago? How can I keep the record in? Then recently, HMRC changed that, payroll, we used to file it at the end of the year, every March ending. But now it's RTI, which means you have to file. Are you aware that you have to file a payroll? I was speaking to a client yesterday, and when I met him, for 3 years, he has not filed his payroll. And the business is going, he doesn't care, and and by the time he started filing now, liability fine started coming in through. Then this fine is something that can be easily afforded. You can easily do away with it. Then taxation, your VAT. How are you filing your VAT? Are you using the right code? Are you filing it quarterly? If it's yearly, am I filing it on time? Am I paying the payments? For example now, if you file the VAT, you don't pay within 30 days, they charge you 10 or 20% of the amount. How can you afford that? Can you go back to statutory compliance now? Did I choose the right accountant? And maybe because I want to pay £50 per month, I decide not to get, or the accountant is not providing the right service for me. But you can put extra £50 and save £5,000. But somehow we behave penny wise, pounds foolish. The other question is, why do your startup need compliance audit or functions? You don't need. When I ask this question, you don't need. It not necessarily mean you have to hire an auditor. It might be a small business, but if it's a large corporation, that is the reason why they have internal audit system, internal auditor, to keep check of the process, to monitor the process. Why do you need it? Because law are changing constantly. If most people that own businesses here, you are VAT registered, recently there's a change in flat rate. Every March ending, there's always changes, increase in PAYE or national insurance. You can't keep up with it if you don't have an accountant that can keep check, and all those questions link together. You need to know that the law are changing, and that is why you need an expert that can help you look through that can provide all the service, both payroll, financial accounting, and all the statutory aspects. Compliance are not peculiar to finance. You need to think about the HR, the payroll. The other question is this: how a dedicated compliance audit help? It help you keep tracks of your taxes, law and regulation, managing internal processing, minimizing fraud and error, segregation internal duty, addressing potential IT security, eliminating fine and other liability, I've mentioned that, lead to easy access to finance or investment. For people that try to raise funds, if you need to approach banks, banks want to see your records. If you want to raise funds through crowdfunding, they want to see, the certain record or compliance that you need to look into. It depends on how big you are looking at the aspect of things. Compliance, every setup should know. Bank opening is not only about you collecting money from customer, it's about monitoring money laundering. Appointment of company secretary, board meetings, you should have 4 board meetings in a year. Then appointment of independent examiner / accountant and auditor, filing of annual returns and financial statements, filing of income tax returns, holding annual general meeting, and all the aspects. And for example, your sales and purchase invoices, the government, there's a requirement that you have to keep 3 to 5 years. And I will leave the last slide, I think, when everybody speaks. If you have any question regarding compliance, then you can ask during the period. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You don't mind sitting down, do you? Excellent. So, thank you so much, Mr. Sheon Isaiah. I don't believe he did justice to his introduction, so I will glaze over a few points he missed out. So he's actually a fellow of the Institute of Financial Accounts of Public Accounting, and as well as a certified chartered accountant, and also as a BSc in accounting from Oxford. He's got an MBA from the University of Wales, and is presently the CFO of Seed Life, which is a leading African agricultural organization. So if there's any other questions you might have, or maybe interest in his networks or possibly agriculture as a business, is certainly a resource to tap into. And just before we move on as well, can I get a sense of the industry interests we have in the room? So what industries are you interested in? Can I get an indication from you?
Mine would be networking, events, just people's business, really.
Okay. Daddy, can I get an indication from you?
Distributive trade, distributive business.
As well.
Yeah, mine would have been agricultural, not here in Africa.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Can I get a mic somewhere there as well? Melissa, do you mind telling me?
Education.
So if there's potentially an industry you are interested in as well, it's a good chance to know those in the room that might be in the same space.
I actually work in compliance and banking, but I've got interest in fashion.
Accounting.
Accounting, right?
People management.
People management.
Regulatory business analyst.
Accounting and finance. Music, events, and dealing with people.
Okay.
IT. Marketing communications.
Great.
HR.
And what are you interested in? I said, Daddy. Yeah, so it's a pleasure to get a sense of where we all are. And the reason I called out Daddy is because the young man's dad is going to speak next. So I'll invite Brother Taye to come. Can we celebrate him, please?
Thank you, everyone. Mr. Adewi has already touched on a lot of the things I wanted to, speak about. So I'm just going to tell you guys my story and tell you a little bit about myself. And my hope is at the end of the story, you guys, whoever has got a question can actually ask. Because one thing I believe is that the experience that one actually acquire over the years, nothing beats that. And I was just telling Deji earlier on that the experience that someone's actually got, and I'm not exaggerating this, is worth more than £1 million. And that's just the truth. So about myself, my name is Tayo Yeleken. Growing up in the north of Nigeria, the first business I actually ventured into, I think I was around about probably 7 years old. And myself and my friend, we just, the fixture to the World Cup just came out. And we just thought, you know what, we can actually make money, from it. We were in primary school. So we went ahead and just, we obviously didn't write any business plan. We just went ahead, photocopied, took all the pocket money that we've got. We photocopy as many of the fixtures as possible. And because we're residing in university, so we thought, you know what, let's just sell it on to all the uncles and all the students. And lo and behold, we had to start begging people to actually buy our fixture. And that was just the first mistake that, first mistake that I made, running a business. I think eventually we managed to just sell 2. I don't know what we did with the rest of it. I think we probably sold it to someone selling, something on the side of the road, I believe. But yeah, that was just the first business I ever run. And I think it's from there that I just find that business is actually something I actually enjoy doing. So moving forward, I'm going to just fast forward it. I went to, City of London University, studied software engineering. And I think it was in my first year. And it just seems as though the mistake that I actually made, when I was 7 or 9 years old, I made the same thing again. So I was working part-time, working in the hospital then, and suddenly I quit the job just to focus on university. And because mommy said, you know what, focus on, and who out there, listening to mommy when she actually tells you, you know what, focus on your studies. So I thought to myself, you know what, let me look for something I can actually do on the side. And then I'm sure we've all seen someone put posters around. They tell you work from home, I called the number and they were like, pay £10 or whatever. I think it was 10 or 20 pounds. I'm like, no problem. I want to work from home, make money on the side while still going to university. So I paid these guys money. They sent you, it's like, I wouldn't call it a leaflet. I think it's about 2 pages or 3 pages, booklet. Would you even call 3 pages? Yeah, booklet. So, and, again, they asked for more money that they're going to send information. And it was from there, believe it or not, because I still felt as though I got scammed because I thought they were going to give me a job. But they actually gave a few tips like drop shipping companies, that actually sell electronics. I think that time, I'm talking 2005 now. So that's around 12 years ago. And so I call some of the drop shipping companies. These guys sell phone cases, accessories. And I don't know if, for those that are not familiar with drop shipping, so you don't actually keep the product with you. The company, they've got a massive warehouse, I think somewhere in Stoke. So, they've got that warehouse. You list your product. So you could actually be, talking to people individually. So let's just say I buy the product from them. They're selling it for so I've got access to their portal. So I get the product for about 50p and then I put my own markup. So you could sell it for as much as you want to, obviously depending what the market is. And that was just how I started building up the business with the drop shipping. I got an eBay account, an Amazon account, making good money. I'm talking, buying stuff for about cases. I think then people weren't actually going to China the way, people do now. So we're talking, excuse me. We're talking, making mark of £5 on a case. You whack it on Amazon, eBay, and, doing very, very well. And then as time just move on, I was still studying, remember? So it's like, obviously, end of my second year, went to do my sandwich course, was working in the city, but I was still running the business. How was I running it? While I was working and while studying, night time, I just make sure the business keep moving. When going to work in the morning, it was a case of, waking up very early to pack all the stuff for all the customers, tie the sack up, establish relationship with the Royal Mail, the local Royal Mail. Every morning you're going to see me dragging 2 sacks, walk to the post office, drop it off, even give them my credit cards. They bill me later on in the evening, I pick up. And that's just how it kept going. But as time went on, I just realized, I need to actually, look for where I can actually get a product even much cheaper. And again, I'm still going to go back to, because again, I just want everyone to actually learn from the mistake that, I actually made. Again, there was nothing like business plan. I just saw that my account was just growing every single time, and I was happy. What's the point of, having business plan, profit or loss book, or, I was just thinking there's just no point having that. And then move on to sourcing from China. And again, and I'm just going to go back to what I said earlier on. Experience, you can't actually put money on it. And first of all, sourcing a supplier was very difficult. I got scammed, Pay money, you send money via Western Union, you don't actually receive the product. And these are Chinese men, and you just learn, you learn that, you start gradually, look for money that you're not scared to actually lose, or it's not going to bother. So you develop the relationship, and as time goes on, you try to increase the order from that person, and it goes up and up and up. So obviously, initially, it was a bit difficult trying to get a supplier. And again, when it comes to quality as well, for those who have actually bought things in China, there's different grade, A, AAA, and, the list goes on and on. And so that's how I venture into sourcing from China. Again, accessories, strictly accessories, researching on eBay and Amazon. There are loads of different ways for anyone that is actually interested in venturing into online. You can talk to me later on. There are loads of ways for you to actually know the hottest thing to actually buy, the latest things, something that once you buy, in no time you're actually going to sell it out. And that was just how the business, again, kept growing. Still in uni, graduated in university. A year after, I just quit my job. And, thinking about, 4 years in university, all of a sudden you quit your job. And bear in mind, I wasn't born here. So it was a case I was not entitled to student loan. I was my mom was actually paying, I think uni fee is still 9,000 now. She was actually paying 9,000 per year for myself and my twin brother. So you can imagine what it was like. She was, not devastated, but she was just thinking, do you actually know what you're doing? Are you, someone actually, done something to you back home? Like people always say, but nonetheless, she was supportive, because even before I quit my job, I'd already got my first house then. So she actually knew things were actually going in the right direction for me. So upon quitting, quitting my job, I focused on the business 100%. Initially, I converted one of the rooms in my house. I converted it into an office, but it got so big that obviously, when I got married, I was like, there's just no way I'm gonna be working at home, and at the same time spending time with my wife and stuff. I just thought, because I'm the sort of person, I could wake up at 2 a.m. And then just start working again. So I just thought to myself, need to move out. So I met a gentleman. We started sharing a place together. And as time goes on again, the business just expands so much that I had to get my own place. And it was at this juncture that I already, the problem started gradually. But again, I didn't see it, because how can you actually see that you've actually got issues when you don't actually have any record? All you actually see is, you've got about 5-6 staff you're just paying. At some point we actually venture out to the US as well. Staff, I had staff from here posted to New Jersey. So we set up over there. Things were fantastic. I was there for a month, and then, all expenses paid, everything all looking, hunky-dory. And then, from then on, we expand to Ireland, got a shop set up in Ghana as well. And then, things just keep, we kept doing very, very well. Then problem now came, because you don't actually know, you don't have record of what's actually going in or out. All you just see is just money coming in. And that's why I'm just going to advise every single person, just like Mr. Adewi mentioned, whatever business you want to get into is very, very important. You actually have record of, what you're selling, be it services. If you're into services, education, think about how many people you're going to need to break even. Let's just say, this is what I want to get into, for every child I'm actually training, they're going to be paying me £10 every single month and stuff. How many children would I need to actually teach for me to get to this figure? And then you just work with it. And then every single time, everything coming out, just make sure you write it down. Even if you're giving to families and friends, it's very, very important. Once it's business, make sure everything is written down, account for every single thing. So the first issue was because we weren't just selling accessories now. At this point, we've actually gotten into selling phones. So we're getting phones from Germany, selling the UK, running promotions. Obviously, because of how big the old business is gotten, HMRC now came in. And then that's when we were hit with a big tax of around about 200K tax, and this is all based on, not actually keeping records of what's actually going on. I mean, when all is said and done, everything was all dealt with and stuff, but we didn't actually have to go through that, and it had a massive impact on the business, big time. But we're still standing, we've diversified, to Ghana now, and, the business still running, in the UK as well. But, what I just want everyone to actually leave with is, it's very, very important when you're actually about to run a business or when you're starting, no matter how little, have everything all written down, and then, the sky's basically your limit. Before I go back to, before I sit down, earlier on, when Mr. Adewi asked how many of us actually run their own business, I think it was about 50%. And the question I just want to ask for those that are yet or they're still thinking about it is, what exactly is your excuse? Like, what's wrong with you? And when I say what's wrong with you, you just need to, you need to examine, what is actually stopping you from doing it. Number one, is it because, I've got children, or I'm a single parent, or, I've got bills to pay, I've got mortgage to actually pay, there's several questions that, or several things that is actually bothering you. And what I'm going to say is, as long as you make time, there is absolutely no way you can't actually run your own business. And when I say make time, you can say, oh, you know what, I've got my bills to pay. Fair enough. Keep working, keep doing what you need to do, your 9 to 5, but come back home early. And, once you're home, you finish all your, chores, be it looking after the children, be it, speaking to family, have a little bit of a rest. You can start running the business on a small scale. And that's where all the records actually come in. Like, you start running it, and gradually, you can start with one particular thing. I can only speak more about, what I do. We run a bakery over in Ghana. We're into electronics. I can tell you, let's say you're into online, selling phones, for example. If you're thinking, another reason could be I don't actually have the finance to actually do it. You can just start with, for a phone, you can start with, let's say, £50. You buy this phone. it could even be second-hand phone. You start with that, and you think, you know what, I'm gonna make five. You look at the markup, see how much everyone else is actually selling the same phone for. It's easy for you to calculate that. You know what, I can make £5 or £10 from this once I actually sell this. You list that phone, and gradually, what you're doing is you're not actually just running a business. You're actually learning as things actually go by. You're gonna find out that you need to actually find a postal, like a postal service. You actually need to send this phone. And that's just how things start. Because a lot of the times, the mistake a lot of people they make is, and this is again speaking from experience, you think straight away as soon as I start running my business, bang, everything is just gonna be, very smooth. But there's gonna be a lot of obstacle, and the only way you're actually gonna know about those obstacles is when you actually start running it. So don't think that yes, it's all these challenges I've got before me, be it the children, be it anything, can actually stop it. If you really mean to do it, you can actually achieve it. So number one thing is, first of all, the business that you want to run, try to look at feasibility, have a little bit of market research as to what it's actually going to take. Uncle was talking about, going into farming. Again, it's something I've tried, it's something I'm looking to do in the future. And when it comes to like going into agriculture or farming, one thing I know is there's just so many chains in there. You can go into logistic, you can go into, planting. There's so many things involved. I mean, currently, I think in rural area, like in Ghana, I can speak much about Ghana because of my interest in Ghana, and obviously because my lovely wife is actually from there. But in the rural area, one of the problems they've got is whenever they harvest stuff, things are so cheap, like it's dirt cheap. I'm talking, something in Accra, like in the capital of the country, it could be going for as much as £10. But if you go to a rural area, we're talking, and I'm not exaggerating, it could be as low as £1. And, you're already thinking £9. So by the time you factor in your transport, with nothing, with having nothing, you can actually make a lot of money. But the main thing is you actually need to get into the market, try to study exactly how much things actually go for, and then gradually you work your way out. And then secondly, you put your business plan together. And this is very, very important for those who they need financial backer, be it family members, be it the bank. You want to actually see at what point you're going to break even when you're running your business. And then thirdly, you want to actually look at strategy. How you going to, when you're actually, you've got all your objectives and you've got all your business plan put together, how are you going to, sell these products? Like, what strategy are you going to employ? I've got a client that I'm working on developing their website. I didn't mention that, but I've got my hands in different business. And he's got a very wonderful product. And I was talking to him last week, and this product is something that, excuse me, I've not actually seen something like that. The product is actually going to sell itself. And he spent tens of thousands, carrying out research and development on this product. But the one thing he forgot is how to actually market the product. And that's where I actually, come in based on my experience. I told him all the different things. And one of the number one things I said is, and for those who already run business, when it comes to marketing, because a brother over there mentioned marketing, if you give someone like a marketing executive £1 billion, they can help you spend it. Because marketing, there's just no limit. There's absolutely no limit to marketing. So you need to devise your strategy, how you're going to market your product and get it out there. And once that is all done, I think my time is up. But so yes, that's just some of the story. And, like I said, is a think tank. Yeah, I can't even say that. But it's a think tank. So I believe there will be loads of questions. I'm very, very happy, for anyone to ask questions, and then, we can actually interact and have a chat. And if at all there are questions I can't answer, I've got mentors as well. You know, one of them is pastors who I come to him every single time, you know, for advice and stuff. So I've got mentors that, you know, I can probably go back and ask them, and then I can actually feedback. But, you know, like I said, I've been running business for 14 years. So, you know, there's a lot that one's actually gone through, and I believe I'll be able to answer those questions. So thank you very much for listening.
It's all right, it's okay. You know what? Could I get you to sit in front if you don't mind? Can we celebrate Brother Tai once again? Okay, so it's getting very interesting because I didn't realize Brother Tai was actually the sort of person you would refer to as a serial entrepreneur. So there's a lot of wisdom to tap into, and it was also interesting to note that when he started, it was really like, let me just get that money, right? But obviously the lessons revert back to what Mr. Adewuyi was saying earlier. So I'm going to invite Mr. Wale Adesina. Am I correct? Yes. Can we celebrate him?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. This evening, I'll be talking about the best way to set up your company, as in to run maybe as a limited liability company or to run as a sole trader. So to start with, I think my co-speakers, they mentioned two really important points that I think everybody should hold on to if you want to run a successful business. The first one is you need to decide, that Mr. Adewuyi said, you need to decide if you want to run as a limited liability company or as a sole trader from the start. From the inception of the business, that's the first thing you need to know. And I will run you through some points that you need to consider. What is suitable for A might not be suitable for B. It depends on your personal circumstance. And secondly, you cannot run a successful business, as Mr. Taiwo said, if you don't keep records. It's not possible. Record keeping is very, very important. It's not because HMRC will come to you or anything, but the truth is that is what makes you to evaluate how your business is performing. So that's why when you see accounts are prepared with comparative figures. They show you the current year figure and the figure for the previous year. It is for the users of the financial statements to know how the business is performing. For instance, if your profit last year is £60,000 and this year you have £30,000, one will wonder, where is this business heading to? So it's for the investor or a lender to know how the business is doing. And then you, as the proprietor or the owner of the business too, can use that information to determine if the business is what you should continue with or you should diversify. So it's very important that you keep records. If your accountant finishes preparing your accounts, one of the things they will do is to let you know how your business is performed, comparing your performance this year to prior year's performance. So, but to start with, I will go by saying, if you want to start a business, the first thing, another important thing that you need to do is to speak to an accountant. It is very, very important. Even if you cannot afford to pay an accountant, look for somebody that you know, that's a friend or a church member that knows about accounting. So they can tell you from the inception, from the start of your business on, they can advise you on how to run the business. Because most people will start a business without consulting an accountant, and when it's too late, that's when they start looking around for an accountant. Most accountants will be happy to give you free service for the consultation free service. So when you want to start a business, go to an accountant. I'm planning to start this business. What advices do you have for me? They will ask you questions based on the answers that you provide for them. Then they will be able to advise you, give you the best advice. So if you want to run any business that you want to run, you can either run it as a sole trader, which means you are on your own, and then the business is yours, or you can run it as a partnership. You can partner with somebody, then there will be two of you in that business. Then the third vehicle that you can use is to run the business as a limited liability company. So if you want to run a business as a sole trader, like I said, you're on your own, and most people, it will be, I would advise that if you want to run a business as a sole trader, if you are starting out, it is a good idea to start as a sole trader. The benefit of it is that the administrative requirement is not as much as it is for a limited liability company. And again, most people that are starting out a business would want to still keep their 9-to-5 job and still be doing their business maybe on a part-time basis. And in the first few years, it is usually expected that maybe the business will be making a loss. So if, for instance, your business is making a loss and you have a full-time job where you are paying tax and then the loss from from your business can be relieved against the tax that you've paid. So for instance, you're working, you've paid tax of £5,000 and your business has made a loss of, say, £10,000. £2,000 can be returned back to you by HMRC. And when you feel like the business is now growing and you want a kind of maybe corporate presence, then you can say, okay, you can then transfer the business into a limited liability company. So it's one of the things that you need to consider when you want to run a business. And then another thing that we'll be talking about is the employment status. For somebody that is running as a sole trader, you are not your own employee. You cannot employ yourself. And you don't earn salary. You don't draw salary from the business. What you get is profits. So when you run your own business as a sole trader, you have to be very careful because you are allowed to use your own personal account. The money goes into your account. You can draw the money. There is no tax implication on that. But if you're not keeping good records, you might be spending your profit and then be tapping into your capital without realizing. So, but if you're running your business as a limited liability company, in most cases, if it's a small business, you will be the director and also the shareholder. So, in your capacity as a director, you are an officer of the company, which means you are an employee of the company. So in that case, you will need to register the company as an employer, and you will be an employee for the company. And in that capacity, you can draw salary from the company. And as a shareholder, you are the owner of the company, and you are entitled to dividend. So another point that you need to consider is the tax on profit. If you think you will not be making a lot of profit, it might be sensible to run your business as a sole trader because it's just very straightforward. The only thing that the HMRC will want from you is your tax return. But for you to evaluate the performance of your business, I will still advise that you keep proper accounts. But for a sole trader, as long as your turnover is below the VAT registration threshold of 80,000, HMRC only needs 3 lines from you: your income, your expenses, and your profit. But if you are running your company, if you are running your business as a limited liability company, a full account is needed by HMRC. You are allowed to file abbreviated account to Companies House, but HMRC will still need to have details of every line of your account included in your tax return. So if you know that you won't have the resources to do big accounts and stuff, or you are running a very small business, it might be advisable that you run as a sole trader. Then the rate of tax as well is something that you need to consider. As your business starts growing, you might want to consider turning that business from a sole trading business to a limited liability company. The benefit of that is that as the higher you earn as an individual, the more tax you pay. So once you start earning beyond a certain amount, they start taxing you at 45%. Then there's additional, at 40%, then there's additional tax rate of 45%. But for a limited liability company, irrespective of the level of your business, you pay tax at 20%. Then losses is, and I've mentioned, I've talked about losses earlier. That if you think your business will be making loss at the start of the business, it might be preferable for you to run as a sole trader, especially if you have other taxable income. Because if you have any trading income, can be relieved against any other income. But the loss that is made by a limited liability company cannot be relieved against your personal income. And you need to consider how you want to be extracting your profits as well. So I would advise that this strategy you can get help from an accountant about profit extraction. And another thing that you might want to consider is if you want to pay gift aid to the church, if you are a higher rate taxpayer, you should pay your VAT from your personal account. Because in that case, the church will get the 20% back and you are also getting 20% back. But if you have questions about that, when it's question and answer time, I will come back to that. As a sole trader, if you're a higher rate taxpayer, but if you have a limited liability company and you are paying the church gift aid from your limited liability company account, please don't fill in the gift aid declaration claim, because the church will not be able to claim anything back on that. Rather, the company will be able to claim a tax relief on the gift aid. But as a sole trader, if you give money to the church, then you should fill in a gift aid declaration. Yeah. As an individual, you should give the church gift aid declaration, because the church will be able to claim that money back. You can't claim the money back from the church. But another thing that you need to be sure of is, because if the church claims more than they should claim from, more than the tax that you've paid, HMRC will not go after the church, they'll come after you. That's the individual, yeah.
But in what circumstances can they do that? Because when you
For instance, if you pay £100 tax for the whole year, and you pay, let's say you pay 4,000, you give the church £400. The church is able to claim £100 back from HMRC. But because you've paid as much as £100 in tax, then there will be no problems. But if you pay the church, say, £500 and the church is claiming back £120, then the £20 difference will be payable by you. Should HMRC come to you, do their routine check from the church, yeah. So, yeah. Then another thing that I would like to mention is, this is particularly important for people that are doing contracting. When you are contracting, most people want to pay as little tax as possible, if possible, nothing at all. Yeah, it's okay. But when you are planning to buy a house, you want to get a mortgage, you need to discuss this in time with your accountant. You need to let them know at least 3 years before. Yeah, the reason is if you are an employee, you are getting pay slips. The only thing that the lender will need from you will be 3 months pay slips and your bank statement to support that. But because they understand that it is easy for you to manage your earnings, if you are running your own business, you can pay yourself a lot of salary this year. The salary that you're meant to earn maybe in 10 years, you can pay that to yourself in a day. So you have that discretion. So what they want to see is your 3 years accounts. So if you discuss that with your accountant, then there will be things that they can do to help you with that. So you won't be able to achieve your aim if you go to your accountant, next month I'm planning to get a mortgage, I've got my deposit. No, it won't work. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so this is the part where we tap into the knowledge, we tap into the resource. So I know a few of us have written a few questions down, and by all means, feel free to maybe direct it to any of the panel, or if you want everyone to answer the the questions you might have. So can I get any indication of anyone with interest? Excellent. Can we get a mic on that side of the room? And I'll leave this with you. So
good evening, everyone. My name is Kunle. I have quite a few questions, but the first question, and really I think it can go to any of you because I have questions for each of you. Touching on the business plan that yourself, sir, you spoke about initially, how detailed does a business plan have to be, and what are all the aspects that it has to cover prior to starting a business? Especially if you're in a position where you've started already and you then have to backtrack. So we don't fall into the...
That is, how would I put it? The question is very good because business plan has, content. But if you are having a plan that's this business, you want to run this business for the next 10 years, it means you have to think and make the business plan rich, right? And you need to spend time. If it needs to get a professional will help you out, right? One of the major areas about business plan is the strategy, the objective of your company, the strategy you need to put in place to achieve that objective, the marketing plan that will make you achieve this objective. But before you consider the marketing plan, you need to think about your financial plan. And you need to have at least minimum of 3 years financial plan. When you have a 3-year financial plan, then your brain can switch to the marketing. How am I going to get this sales unit that I need? My colleague here was speaking about the money you make after cover, that what we call break-even, right? You need to know about break-even. You need to know about the industry I'm working. Is this seasonal? And when I'm writing a business plan for someone or I'm preparing a financial analysis, financial plan for someone, I try to put a line that shows sensitive, seasonal sensitivity. What that means is that all businesses react when it's rainy season or when it's winter, when it's this. Then you need to think about that. Then you will already understand, already plan. Every September, my sales is very, very low. Then you already think, how can I minimize my cost? There is a capital, an investment company here in London is approved by Mayor of London to provide finance for small businesses. And I work with them as auditor. I go in like business.com, I do due diligence on their plan. And I've seen a business plan in which they didn't even consider rent. And they were talking, in first month, we're going to break even. Then I look at their spreadsheet and I interrogate it, and I find out if you are starting a business and it's already written you're going to rent a place, but you didn't account for that cost. How are you going to break even in first month? And if your rent is like 10,000 per month, and you're going to need like 20 clients before you can pay that, then how can you do that? Then you need to consider even your subscription, your telephone bills, your transportation into the financial aspect. You need to look at the payroll side of things. If you are paying yourself, what is the PAYE that is going to involve, the national insurance that is going to involve, and every aspect. Then since you are planning for the 3 years, you already think every March the government increase minimum wage. How is it going to impact me? How is it going to affect me? Then you already plan that. And that is, it depends on how rich or how you want to make your business plan. Because you want to buy a car now. How many months did you spend researching or test driving the car? As a man, the minimum, if you're going to buy a car, you spend like 3 to 6 months. But have you spent 3 to 6 months thinking, how am I going to structure my company? How am I going to structure my business? How am I going to make it work? You spend time to it, you do your research, as my colleague said, and you look at every aspect of associated costs. And I don't know if you want to help.
I mean, a lot has already been said. The point I just want to make is, yes, you can put your business plan together, just as Mr. Adewis mentioned. You want to put your liability, your current liability, your assets that you've actually got, you want to put it all down, and then you can now work from there. Because possibly, just like myself, you know, how I started, I'd already started making profit. So, you know, straight away you can start putting all your projection, i.e. what you made last month, and then you can now build up from there. You know, you've already bought a lot of things, factor every single thing in, whether you're paying rent, you know, you already bought like maybe a car for the business. Just make sure everything's all written there, and then you can work your way up from there. But it's never too late to actually put one together. So yeah.
Thank you very much. My question is to Taiwo, the serial entrepreneur. I just wanted to ask 2 questions. When is it too many business? As in, when do you think, oh, I'm doing too many now, I need to stop? 1. And 2, when is the next time, when is the time to take the next step? So, okay, this business is doing well, I can now add more to it, or I can go into this. Do you understand? Just to be able to plan yourself properly.
Yeah, you're absolutely... it was something that actually I fell into at some point, whereby I was jumping from one business to the other. And there isn't actually, well, it's hard to answer the question because it's never too much. The main thing is, whatever business you're into, you just need to make sure you get it to a point whereby, you know, the market is already saturated. So let's just say, for example, and it all stems from what your goal is as well. So you've already written your plan and you're like, you know what, my projection is at the end of the year, I want to get around about, let's just say, you know, you're in education and you're running a nursery, for example. I want to get around about 20 people or 20 children, you know, after 6 months or so. So once you've actually gotten to that point, then you need to get staff that will actually be able to do some of the work you were doing, you know, qualified staff, and then, you know, they will be able to run. Then you can actually take a back step. So your own job now will be for you to be reviewing your document, i.e. the outgoings, the incoming, in terms of, you know, the number of children coming into the nursery, and then you review your book to make sure that you're still, you know, meeting the target that you've actually set yourself. And as soon as you've actually done that, making sure that you actually stay focused, looking at your figures, that's when you can actually pull back a little bit. And then if you want to diversify or move into a different business, then yeah, by all means. But it's just very, very important that a structure is actually put into it if you're going to take yourself out of it. You know, that's the best way to go about it. And if that business is what's sustaining you, then I wouldn't advise you to, for example, take all the money in that business and then just pour into another business just like that. That won't be advisable at all. So you just want to make sure you actually, you know, you specialize, you get it to a point whereby, you know, it's almost an autopilot, and all you need to do is just to keep checking your financial statements, and reviewing, all your plans that you've actually got. And sorry, the second question was, have I answered? No, it can't be too many, but the main thing is just making sure you're not losing focus, because it's easy to lose focus, and the only way you can actually combat that is, like I said, making sure you actually got staff that can actually do what you're doing. I mean, one thing is for sure, you can't get someone that can do exactly how you actually want something to be done when it comes to business. But that's where trust comes in, and that's why, we're businessmen and women, because we just have to take risk, and with the hope that, the risk actually, it comes good, and, we get big reward afterwards.
Can I add a line to that? Over the weekend, I was listening to an interview that Dangote was giving, and there was a line that's a question that way, and its answer is this: there's no limit on other business you can do, provided you are doing a business you understand. Don't go into a business because someone's mentioned it or because someone is doing well. If you don't understand it, you don't know how it runs, don't do it, because you will always be behind other people because you don't understand it. And that is it. You can go in as many business you want, but every business you are going into, make sure you understand that business, you understand that industry, you know how it runs.
You do have certain knowledge of the business.
Yes.
But can you also capitalize on getting people who are experts in that field to run it more? So something's lucrative, you know a bit about it, you might not be fully concerned about it, but you also know people who are experts in that field. Can that not be something one can also
That
leverage?
could be something, but if you are starting a business and it's your business, is like a one-man business, if you don't have passion, if what attracts you to that business is because of someone is doing well there, that person might have more passion than you. You can do your research, market research and so many other things, but that person has a passion. The person, because of that passion, the person will always have edge on you. It's good. You can start a business if that's what you want to do, and get someone. You are depending on other people's experience or other people's passion. If that person is out of the business, can that business keep running? You need to ask yourself a lot of questions, and you have to safeguard yourself, on those type of issues.
Mr. Wale, you mentioned sole trader partnership and limited liability company. I didn't get to hear anything about the partnership, and that was one I was really looking out.
Partnership, there's conventional partnership, which is similar to sole trading. The difference between the two, between sole trading and conventional partnership, is the numbers of people involved. So with sole trading, it's just one person. Conventional partnership, one or more. There's no limit to the numbers of partners that can be in it. But there's also LLP, which is an hybrid between sole trading and limited liability company. So with conventional partnership, you don't need to register with Companies House at all. So you just form a partnership, register for self-assessment with HMRC, and that's it. But with LLP, you register the business with Companies House, whereby you'll be expected to produce accounts submitted to Companies House. And you don't do corporation tax return because you are not a company, but you still do self-assessment for the partners and then the limited liability partnership itself. Sorry? Yeah. What happened in partnership is you share the profit. There will be profit sharing ratio. Maybe that will be agreed at the start of the business. That might be based on, say, the contributions that you put in. So it might be, say, 50-50% or whatever profit sharing ratio that you've determined. So the profits of the business will be shared among the partners. Then that each partner will then report their share of profits in their self-assessment tax return. You can say, okay, you can either get both salary and drawings, or get just salary, or get drawing. Any mixture that pays.
When is it required? How much in terms of money is it required before HMRC wants us?
But before, even if you make £1, they want you to report it. But you don't have to pay tax on that one. But it's just very similar to self-assessment, to sole trading. The only thing is that with limited liability company, your liability is limited to the amount of money that you've put into the business. Yeah, is that clear? So if you make, at the end of the year, if your profit is £500, that £500 will go on your tax return. There's no threshold to the amount of profit that you need to make before you start making tax return. Once you are a partner in a limited liability partnership, then you start doing your self-assessment tax return on an annual basis. Yeah, even if it's £0 profit, you still need to report it. Even if you make a loss, you still need to report it. LLP, so trading, whatever business you are running. And another mistake that people make is there are things that they call other incomes, like savings income. If you have savings, you have dividend income, you have rental income. Even if you have foreign income, those income might need to go into your tax return. Any income that you have will have to be recorded in your tax return. If you are making a loss, you still need to submit your tax return, but your loss can be carried forward or be relieved from other income that you have.
Okay, I'll go a question. So, please. Sorry, mate.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay, cool. So I've got two questions. The first one being, you mentioned about keeping track of your expenses, making sure everything is organized in that way. Do you recommend any sort of software, any sort of tools that kind of link directly to your account, or to make the job kind of easy to keep track of? Second question is, do you recommend any sort of books as well that you can read to gain further knowledge in establishing a startup business as well?
The first question is, was, sorry. The software that you can use. Yeah, it depends on how big your business is.
So, for example,
for a very small business, you can do with an Excel spreadsheet. You have a lot of Excel spreadsheet that they've built that with built-in formula. They just put your income, no matter how you keep, even if he's writing it in a book, it's okay, just keep records. And that record is that's your bookkeeping, and that is what will be turned into your accounts, and that will be the source document for preparing your accounts and your tax return. So before you start thinking of investing in a big software, start with Excel spreadsheet. Let's open Excel spreadsheet, have a tab, your income tab, your expenditure tab. So your expenses, just have a column, put your expenses there, insurance on a monthly basis, weekly basis, once your bank statement comes. And another advice that I will give is that it is better if you can run your business through your bank account. Try as much as possible not to use cash, because even if you are not keeping proper records, your bank statements can serve as the source document for preparing your accounts. Some people, if you run your business based purely on using your bank account, then all your accountant might need from you will be your bank statements, and maybe if they need you to explain some transactions within your account, they give you a ring. Then that's an easy way. If you can't be keeping fuel receipts or anything, if you go to the filling station, use your card to pay for the fuel. It's there in your account. Yeah.
Let me add to that. That is a a very like a simple way in which you can get it done. But if you have interest to get to step up to maybe a more organized way and actually keeping the receipt, right? There are like two software which they are very brilliant, and one of them is I use it a lot, and the first one is Zero. Uh, Zero software is XERO, and the other one is QuickBook. Then you can have app on your phone. For example, you are out with your friends or business partner, and you got like a little receipt. It's something you can actually scan it through your phone. And now they are incorporate sensible scanner that will actually identify the figures and post the figures directly, in which you don't even need to type them. And what you need to know is what is that receipt for, and just choose it and post it. Then your accountant can have access to it, and you can link it to your bank account. And you can. Why did I say that? Is because nowadays data is becoming a very valuable tool to make decisions, right? Because you want to you generate an invoice through the software. You could tell someone, I'm expecting my receivable is this amount, and this is when I'm going to be paid. When you are paid, you can actually have this information directly from your bank linked to your software, and you can make a decision. You can generate, look at your liability. For example, VAT, your liability. You can actually check that, and if you are someone that wants to have your information, quickly, you can actually go into those type of software. Then this Excel is good if you just want basic things and you don't want to spend money. But some of this software, you can actually get them as cheap as £10 per month. Yeah. It's Zero or QuickBook. Yes. Any one of them is brilliant, but Zero is, I use that more than QuickBook. But both of them are really, really good.
With regards to books, personally, like the way I approach things, it all depends exactly where you are in the business. I can't recommend, a book for you to actually read, when you want to start a business. But I'll give you an example, and I hope you'll be able to, because if you go to any library, you'll be able to find any book that you actually need. An example for me is because I'm venturing to West Africa. So currently, not currently, but I've read books like pre-colonial trade in West Africa. So even before, all the countries in West Africa got, separated due to obviously the British. So, I try to see how trades were being carried out from the slave trade, and from then on, I was able to actually see how things actually work, from all the sugar plantation, the Caribbean and things like that. So it all depends where you are. You can find all these books, like just go into the business section, any library, you'll be able to find, variety of books that you actually, that's going to actually take you to the next level. But one thing though that I would advise is make sure you carry out your research of what exactly you want to get into, because I've seen a lot of people fall into there's this pitfall whereby people just keep reading and studying, and they're not actually making, any movement. Try to actually, limit yourself that this is what I need to actually gain from this, and then, take the plunge,
It's difficult to introduce you to any book because the authors focus on certain industry, and what's going to work with telecommunication now doesn't work in other industry or like that. But what you should understand is look at a business plan, understand a business plan, and try to adapt it to your industry. and you can adapt it to your industry by actually doing the market research for that industry, and that will help. And when it comes to business plan, how will I put it? Because I have an MBA background and so like that, and I just switch into these are the concept of things that business got to look at, and I could adapt myself into different industry, and it makes it a bit like pin one particular book down to read, because I just look through different of them, and if you go to the library, you'll be able to get some good ones though. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I just want to ask. You've said a lot about putting up good business plan before one starts, and using the services of maybe an accountant or something to keep the books, bookkeeping or book record keeping, which is very good. I believe there is element of risk in every business, isn't it? Now, with your own experience, what are the internal and external risk factors that people like us will need to, to build in when we are doing our plan?
Okay. For example, when you're writing a business plan, there is a section there that said competitive analysis. In your business plan, there should be a section that says competitive analysis, and the part of the competitive analysis will be you have to look at your internal, which you need to use as a model. We call it SWOT analysis, your strengths and weaknesses, and you will be able to see what you can do and what you cannot do. And under that section, there is a risk analysis in which you need to carry it out. You need to look at the risk of the industry, and you need to look at the risk of your location, and you need to look at financial risk. For example, if you are doing a business that you have to send or buy something from China or buy something from Ghana, then fluctuation of currency, that is the main reason why I don't believe anybody, no matter how small that business is, without you sitting down, even if it's 2 pages, without you actually sit down and put them in writing, you think, you don't need to do it within 1 day. It can take a month for you to, because if you are able to write it down, you'll be able to think more, and you'll be able to, think about associated risk. Part of your business plan should consider all risk that need to be associated with that. And it's not only the risk. For example, we talk about if I could get the structure, mention the structure from, maybe before I go, I will ask one of these persons to print like a content of what a business plan should look like. I will check my computer. I have like a structure. And you'll be able to see it from company overview, the objective, the directors, what are the skills each directors are bringing in or people you're going to employ. Then it comes into the competitive analysis, the strategy you're going to use, then the risk that's going to associate. Then you need to consider everything. It shows that you are actually looking at the industry. You are actually seeing that the mindset should be, what are the things that I can do well? What are the things that will not make this business successful? And because I always tell people, when you're writing a business plan, at the back, you need to write what is your exit strategy. How am I going to exit the business? You cannot run the business until you die. You need to think, am I going to pass it to my son, or am I going to sell this business? Then all those type of things, from the day you are starting that business, you need to think about, how am I going to push this business? How am I going to start this business? How am I going to grow it? And when I grow it, what am I going to do with it? Am I giving it to my children? Am I selling it? If I'm going to sell it, I have to build it to a certain value. The guy that wrote WhatsApp, the WhatsApp we're using, from the first day, he already said, I'm going to sell this to Facebook. From when we already have Viber and every other business is the same, but from the first day, he said, I'm going to develop WhatsApp and I'm going to sell it over $1 billion to Facebook. That is his determination, and that is the business plan. From the business plan, he already said, okay, these are the people I'm going to market to. These are the people I'm going to focus. I'm going to sell my product to. When you have a business plan, you'll be able to see. And that's what I'm saying. If you can't write it, outsource it. Pick on the brain of people that are experienced in writing a business plan, and they will be able to guide you. There are lots of them outside in which you can, you're ready to invest in it, then you will get a good value for money. And they will consider all the risk that is going to associate with that industry.
Oh, it's working. Yeah. Hi. I've got a question. As a sole trader, because I have an idea basically, is to basically write a book myself. So I'll create the product and put it online and sell it. So in that case, would I need to have such a detailed business plan? And B, would I need to? How would it work in terms of me sort of paying tax? How would that work?
Okay. Should I deal? You deal with this. I'll deal with it. Okay. If you're starting. You're writing a book, right? You might not write a detailed business plan like 50 pages, right? But each aspect of the business plan needs like a paragraph, a sentence under it, which shows that you've considered them. It shows that you've considered them because you're writing a book. Who's your customer that you want to focus on? What type of book you're writing? How long do you want that book to be in the market? You can write the book and produce the book within a month. It's not on the shelf again. How do you want to expand the life of that book? How many books do you want to sell? What value do you want to add to that? Then you talk about the marketing, the branding, how are you going to do that? Then you have to give consideration of all aspects of business. It doesn't necessarily mean more than 5 pages, but you have to consider every aspect of a business: the operation, the financial, marketing strategy, risk, and so on and so forth that you need to consider. Maybe when you finish, it's 3 pages, line under each one, but you need to consider each aspect of a business plan.
Okay. If you want to start writing a book or any business that you'd like to venture into, the first thing that you need to do is to determine, I don't know, have you decided that you're going to trade as a sole trader or?
Yeah, because it's self-publishing, so I'll write the book and we'll live online, so I'll be a sole trader.
Yeah, you can run it through a limited liability company as well. But if you want to be a sole trader, the first thing that I would advise is from the day that you are starting to do anything, don't wait till when the income start coming in before you register the business. Because the risk is that you might miss out on claiming the startup expenses and the initial expenses that you start incurring. You might not realize it. Maybe you've bought yourself a laptop and you're using that should be cost to the business. Because you're not making money yet does not mean you should not be recording your expenses. So when you start making money, then that should come out of the income that you are making. And HMRC requirement is that within 3 months of you starting any business, you should register the business with HMRC. So you can do that by calling them or going online to register. It's very simple. You wouldn't need to engage anyone to do that for you. They just ask you your personal information, name, date of birth, airline number, when did you start trading, what sort of business are you doing, that's all. So once you've registered, if you register, whenever you register, the 5th of April, following the day that you start the business, will be your first year end. What is common to all sole traders is the accounting period. But with sole traders, all sole traders will have a year end of 5th of April. No, that's your tax year end. The business itself can choose its year end. you are free to say, oh, my year end will be 31st of December. But when it comes to reporting tax, the financial year end is what you will use. So say you register your business today, by 5th of April, they will expect that all the activities, your year end might be 31st of December, but anything that happened between now and the 5th of April next year, you will what you have to include in your tax return. So it is very important that you register with HMRC, let them know that you started trading. And another thing that you need to do is to make sure you start keeping records. It might just be Excel spreadsheets. If you are going to get something, because any expenses that you've incurred exclusively for that business, you can claim for it. So if you're using your car, you need to travel. The mileage you can claim for, even though it's your personal car. If you've bought a car because of the business, you can put that car on the business, claim capital allowance on that, but the personal use, if you're using it for your own personal thing, maybe to go to church, to go to gym, go shopping, then you have to estimate that amount. If it's 50%, then 50% of the cost of the car will be claimable, and 50% will be disallowable. Yeah. So on an annual basis, you have to be submitting your tax return. So if you are making loss initially, just keep accruing the loss. When you start making profit, then you can relieve the loss against the profit you've made. Yeah.
So just before we carry on, we've right about come to the point where officially this report will end. But we realize a few people that still want questions. But for those of us that might want to leave at this point, I would like to say thank you for coming. And just to emphasize that this is essentially being championed by Great Life Connections, and we worship just across the road at Sunderland University. And the whole idea is to empower each other and build the understanding that will enable us to be channels of blessings. So I trust you've been blessed. So if you want to leave at this point, please do feel free to. And we've got business cards outside as well. And we'll take further questions. I believe you've got a question as well. Please, Karen.
Thank you. My question is very straightforward. I'm interested in e-commerce, and it's something I've been looking into. At what point do you think I should start paying tax on my profit? So when we were talking, you were like, I can start with £50 or one phone. So do I need to grow the business to like 10 products? Is it when I'm selling like over 100 products, then as a sole trader, that I start paying tax? I mean, the accountants are there. Or the moment I start, I should register it and then start paying?
You register once you start trading, register your business. Then you start paying tax from the end of the financial year.
So if I don't register, then I don't need to pay tax?
But you must, but it's a statutory requirement that you register. Within 3 months of commencing a trade, you need to register with HMRC.
Okay. So to you, so I'm just starting out, not as a business now, something I'm looking into. At what point should I register it? Like, I mean, I don't think it makes sense if I'm registering just one product. I'm starting with just one product.
With one product, yes, you should register. You don't want to fall into the same, pitfall that I did.
No, I mean, I would not get to the point of expanding into territories before I register. I'm just thinking that, should I start selling like 10, 20 products, 30, then I'm like, okay, I think I'm making
Whether it's one thing or 10 things, it's still a trade.
But do you realize that before you start making money in any business, there will be an outlay, there will be a cost. So if you're not registered, you might not, the culture of bookkeeping, you might not inculcate that, you might not adopt it. So it is important that you register. You don't need to pay tax. That you are registered for self-assessment does not mean you'll be paying tax.
But then I would need to declare that I made income, my expense, my profit.
Yeah, but before you start paying tax on income, there is personal allowance. So you still, at least as of now, you need to earn over £11,500 a year before you start paying tax.
Okay, of course. So 50. Of course.
And when you register, even if you are not paying NI at all, if your income is above the primary threshold, then you are accruing your pension. They will assume you are not paying anything in, but they still assume that you are contributing towards your state pension. So it is more beneficial to register than not. Apart from the fact that you are abiding by the law, it is yeah, it is better for you to do so.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I should add something in a simpler way, registering does not necessarily mean you're going to pay taxes. Registering sometime is beneficial to you. Registering sometime means all the money you're spending setting up things, you can claim them back, right? There's some company that they start for 1 year, what they are doing is setting up the business. At the end of the year, they're going to declare, right? They're going to declare, but by the time they're declaring, because they're setting up, they're incurring costs, they're keeping the record, then they will declare loss of £250,000. Fined by government. There's no revenue, it's just outlay. They are fined by it. Then that loss, when you now start making money in the second year, you can now be claiming those losses against those profits. For example, people were criticizing Donald Trump. I don't like him. Don't think I love him, right? But he did a business in a year. He made a loss of $1 billion dollars. For 20 years, he paid no taxes. He was claiming that $1 billion loss 20 years ago. He was claiming it. That is what they call tax efficiency, right? If you are not registering, then you can be fined because you are evading taxes. You are evading taxes. What government wants is you make money, you don't make money, just tell us what is going on. We are happy if you are making your loss. And if you make your loss, you can claim it. Then that is, they appreciate that. They call it tax efficiency. But if you are not declaring, and they said tax avoidance, then they can hit you with fine and imprisonment. Even if it's £1. That is the reason, instead of you getting yourself into that situation, why can't you prevent it? Prevention is the best cure, you know. You're saying you have a liver problem, stop drinking alcohol, don't drink it. You know, just prevent it. And no.
Even if you're just intending to start it, you've not started anything, you can register. Some people will go and register their limited liability company just for the sake of keeping the name. They don't want anyone to take
Then,
it. And they will not fail, and they'll be submitting dormant account.
Yeah.
And it won't cost you anything.
And it's even business. This is another thing, and my colleague there can testify. People register company name, they buy the domain name, then they don't trade. After 5 years or something, somebody needs that name, and you try to buy the domain name. They say, no, the domain name is owned by a social person. Contact him. Then you contact them. They say, no, before I sell it to you, how much is domain name? Maybe £10. Recently, I have to spend almost $3,000 to buy a domain name. Right? Is there, you can confirm, $3,000 to buy a domain name because I really want that company's name. Right? And it doesn't really matter. You can, if you just think about, no, I have to hide this, you don't gain. It's when you open your hand, you gain.
So essentially, I can go out now and just buy lots of domain names and just sit in there.
Because I was just looking at this. I don't know, for those that are on Twitter, like not too long ago, I think Trump actually tweeted Kofifi. That's just a word. No one actually knows what, up till now, no one knows what Kofifi actually means. Someone who is so smart just went ahead and just bought that domain, kofifi.com. And before you know it, like within a day, there was Kofifi shirts, there was mugs on eBay, and people were making money out of it, simply because it's just self-promotion, you know, so anything goes. And yeah.
Wow, awesome. We're going to take a final question from Daddy Duke before we round up today.
My question is to Brother Wale. Yeah, you made mention about gift aid. As a businessman, you give aid to church, and then in the end, say at the end of the financial year, the church will get certain percentage, be the 20% or, and the owner who has given the gift aid probably has some percentage to collect. Can you explain more detail where it will not be double-handled, please?
The way gifted works is that when you give, say, £80 to the church, the government will assume that you intend to give £100. So they let you pay, because you are paying £80, it's okay, we had £20 to it. So it's the church that will go back to the government to say, Mr. A had contributed £80, gave us, so we need £20 from you. Then the government will oblige and pay £20 to the church. That is how it works with an individual. So whatever you pay, but before the church can go to the government to claim that you need to tell them that I'm a taxpayer. You make your declaration, and that what I've given them, I've paid enough in tax that you can give them back from that. But because it's 20, the government assumes that everybody, for gifted purposes, they assume that everyone is paying a flat rate of 20% in tax, which is not true. We have some high rate taxpayers who are paying 40% in tax. So assuming 40% has been deducted from you, and the government is giving back just 20%, that means they are still holding on to 20%. So you as an individual, if you know that you've paid tax at the higher rates, then you have to submit self-assessment tax return and include that in your return. Then government will give you 20% back. But for basic rate taxpayers, the church will just get 20% back. You don't go back to them because you've only paid 20% in tax. But what I was trying to explain earlier is, if the gift aid is paid from some people that run their own limited liability company, they can choose that the company pays the tithes, that the tithe is coming from the company's account. In that case, you don't need to sign a gift aid declaration, because the company will not go back to HMRC to go and claim anything back. And whatever the company pays, the government is not looking at it as if they will not top it up, basically. So whatever you pay, but you as the company will include the gift aid in your tax return, and you will not pay tax on that amount. Is it clear now? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much. We've come to the end of tonight, and can we just celebrate the panel? Thank you so much. Thank you so much.